Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Planning Committee. I'm Liz Schell, Chair of the committee. Sitting down is Councillor Neal, Vice Chair, Councillor Osanek, Councillor McLaren, and Councillor Turner. Councillor Allen is at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference. We have staff with us, Manager Forfar, Planner Bolton, Planner Diedrichsen, Planner Adams, and Manager Vendetti. And our clerk is Clerk O'Shea. O'Shea. I've got to keep pretending it's Irish. Yes, O'Shea. It is. It is. Just not quite spelled that way. I will now read the public meeting introduction. Notice of collection. Personal information collected as a result of this public meeting hearing and on the forms provided at the back of the room is collected under the authority of the Planning Act and will be used to assist in making a decision on this matter. All names, addresses, opinions, and comments may be collected and may form part of the minutes, which will be available to the public. Questions regarding this collection should be forwarded to the Director of Planning, Building, and Licensing Services. The purpose of public meetings is to present planning applications in a public forum as required by the Planning Act. Following presentations by the applicant, committee members will be afforded an opportunity to ask questions for clarification or further information. The meeting will then be open to the public for comments and questions. Interested persons are required to give their name and address for recording in the minutes. There is also a sign-in sheet for interested members of the public at the back of the room. No decisions are made at public meetings concerning applications unless otherwise noted. The public meeting is held to gather public opinion. Exemption to this rule is outlined in Bylaw Number 2006-75 to delegate various planning approvals to staff and to adopt certain procedures for the processing of planning applications subject to delegated authority. Council has authorized staff to use discretion in determining if an application can be a combined public meeting comprehensive report to expedite the approval process. We do have combined public meeting comprehensive reports for zoning bylaw amendment to 85 King Street East and 1200 Highway 15. A decision will be made at the regular portion of the Planning Committee meeting tonight. Information gathered at public meetings is then referred back to Planning, Building, and Licensing Services staff for the preparation of a comprehensive report and recommendation to Planning Committee. This means that after the meeting tonight, staff will be considering the comments made by the public in their further review of the applications. When this review is completed, a report will be prepared making a recommendation for action to this committee. The recommendation is typically to approve or to deny. This committee then makes a recommendation on the applications to City Council. City Council has the final say on the applications from the city's perspective. Following council decision, notice will be circulated in accordance with the Planning Act, and anyone with an interest in the matter may file an appeal. Interested persons are advised that if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of council to the Ontario Municipal Board unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. And with that, I will open our first public meeting. And this is an application for zoning bylaw amendment 85 King Street East.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Cornish, and I'm a planner with IBI Group. We also have Bruce Downey here. I'm an architect with Hughes Downey Architects, and we're here to present an application for zoning bylaw amendment for 85 King Street, and we note this is the second public meeting for this application. We are requesting a zoning bylaw amendment to permit conversion of an existing carriage house to a dwelling unit, a garage addition between the main house and the carriage house, as shown in the illustration, and severance of the carriage house from the main house property. The first public meeting was held on July 7th. Second public meeting is being required for technical reasons. No changes to the proposed development concept presented at the July 7th meeting. Nothing has changed since then. Again, this is the site plan. This is the main house here, carriage house here. A garage is proposed in the middle, and a consent, which we're working on the details with staff on. We are proposing one site-specific A zone for both the severed and the retained lands, which will treat both properties as one lot for zoning purposes. We believe the requested relief is appropriate in that it maintains the heritage attributes of the building and area as per the heritage impact statement. It enables separate servicing of the carriage house as desired by the applicant. The existing density of the site will be unchanged and is consistent with the PPS and conforms to the OP. As a result, we're of the opinion it represents good planning and is in the public interest. We would ask that Planning Committee recommend the zoning bylaw amendment for approval this evening. Thank you.
Questions from the committee? Seeing none, are there members of the public who would wish to comment on this? Mr. Dixon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been following the file as it's moved through this committee and through Heritage, and I'm impressed with the thoroughness of the work that's been done, and I'm glad that it came to Heritage because that sets a strong precedent for any future projects of this type. Known the house, walked by there many times, and I think it's a very interesting project from many standpoints, and I just want to voice my approval of it.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments from the public? And no questions from the committee, so seeing none, I would like to thank you very much for your presentation. And we'll be voting on this later this evening. That will close the first public meeting. Our second public meeting is an application for zoning bylaw amendment, 1200 Highway 15.
Good evening. My name is Margot Watson, and I'm a planner with Foteng Consultants, and I'm representing the applicants tonight. This is an application for rezoning, and it's for the property located at the corner of Highway 15 and Rose Abbey Drive. There's currently a draft plan of subdivision on the property for residential uses, but there was also previously a severance for this block of land, and it was rezoned, and actually there was also an official plan amendment to allow commercial uses on the site. You may recall that on August 5th, this application came to, or this property came to Planning Committee for a site plan application, and it was approved subject to final technical review by city staff. What the site plan shows is 5 blocks. So block A, up in the corner, is a variety of uses in smaller footprints, things like a daycare, restaurants, smaller retail uses. Block B is more retail. Block C is a supermarket. Block E is a bank, and then right at the corner are 2 restaurant uses, including a coffee shop. There are 2 drive-throughs proposed on the site, one at the bank and one at the corner, and it's that drive-through at the corner that's subject to this rezoning application. So here's a close-up now up the corner, and the relief that's being requested has to do with the drive-through facility next to the coffee shop, which it is labeled there as Starbucks. I was trying to be generic, but it's right on the plan. So, what the zoning bylaw says is that any portion, so including the drive aisle, gets included as the outside limit of where to count the zoning, the edge of the drive-through from. So in this case, the zone line between the residential zone to the south and the commercial zone is right at the property line. And it's because of that and the separation distances that we're requesting the rezoning. So just to have a look at what the zoning bylaw said, it's in the general provisions of the zoning bylaw. This is consistent across all of the bylaws. They were all put in as an amendment a few years ago now. There are 3 provisions. There's a provision to require 50 meters of separation between a residential use or zone and the drive-through. and you have to have 3-meter wide planting strip, and any drive-through service facility is subject to site plan control. The second two we meet. There is actually a 3.5-meter planting strip proposed, and this is going through site plan control. What we want to focus on is the 50 meters, and I want to note again that that 50 meters is from a residential use or a zone that permits a residential use. So again, here's another focusing in more on the corner. And here we're showing you actual setbacks. So because we have to deal with the property line and the zone line, that's why we're requesting relief down to 3 meters. Actual separation distances would be the full width of Waterside Way, which is 30 meters, plus the rear yard setback of the adjacent residential zone, which is 6.75 meters. So actual separation, and I think I neglected to say in that 3-meter planting strip. So your actual separation is 39.75 meters. Now I'd like to speak to the official plan. This property is within the Rideau Secondary Plan, and it has its own district commercial designation policies. There are specific policies that have to do with drive-through facilities, and also some specific policies that deal just with this property. In terms of the drive-through facilities, it's looking for compatibility with adjacent uses. It speaks in a couple of places to pedestrian movement. So it's around both on-site and to adjacent residential uses and having ease of pedestrians getting to the site. It also speaks to streetscapes. They want buildings and structures oriented to the street, and not to have an adverse impact on surrounding residential neighborhoods in terms of noise and traffic. In other policies, it notes that Waterside Way, which is the extension of Rose Abbey, will be the primary frontage, and it wants buildings oriented close to the public sidewalk and the public street. So going back to this drawing, it's been very important through the site plan approval process and in designing the site that the streetscape is created. And for that reason, the buildings have been pulled close to this corner to help create a setting for the plaza as people approach it. I did want to confirm that we did update the noise impact study as part of requesting this rezoning, and that it has been reviewed by the city engineers, and it's been found to expect to fall below ministry levels that are considered acceptable. And as such, we believe that the drive-through is compatible with adjacent uses. I would point out that the separation is not only other uses, but it's actually a street. So from properties on the other side of Highway 15, as well as on the other side of Waterside Way, you have a full 30-meter wide street, and then you have backyards, and then you have properties. The proposed zone has 2 provisions. So again, it's permitting a 3-meter wide a separation from the lot line abutting Waterside Way. The other provision is that no drive-through service facility shall be constructed or established within 50 meters of a residential lot line directly abutting the C8 zone. The intention there is not to permit a drive-through closer to the lands to the north or the west. So where you have residential uses that are directly abutting this property, you would not be able to go within the 50-meter setback. This applies to the areas where you have that separation with Waterside Way there. So to summarize, what we're looking for is relief to 3 meters to the residential zone, but the actual setback to the closest dwelling would be 39.75. In reality, it would be even further, but that's in terms of zoning the closest. The intent of the 50-meter setback requirement is to ensure that drive-through facilities don't create adverse impacts on residential uses. We believe with that separation and with Waterside Way that that's happening. There is a supportive noise study. Visual impacts are mitigated by the 3.5-meter wide landscape strip. This is under site plan control, so it is undergoing good scrutiny by city staff. And the location of the buildings on the site are helping to create the streetscape that's been shown to be desired through official plan policies.
Thank you. Questions from the committee? Councillor McLaren?
Thank you. This is with regards to that noise study, and it looks to me like the driveway there for the Starbucks would create a bit of an amplitude, or like an amphitheater. You're using the side of a building. Any noise that is created right on that side of the building is going to bounce towards the residential. It strikes me that it would be quieter if you were to put it on the other side of the building in some way. Like, there must be some creative imaginary way to do that, that architects do. Because I imagine that part of the reason that we have this bylaw where we have the 50-meter setback is because they want 50 meters between that and another zone, and they expect that there's space in the other zone to add to that, and now we're taking it away. That noise study, it's not here, so I'm not entirely sure of it, but it does sound like reason run amok, because that wall is going to amplify the sound of a speaker when they speak in. I'd like some fries with that, or when they slam a door. And the idling of the cars, I know that I've received complaints from people who hear idling on on Taylor Kidd, even over the noise room, the noise walls that they have there. And that's a lot more than that. It really does strike me that any noise bylaw or any noise study that says this is probably missing some assumptions. Is there any way that you can actually move that to the other side of the building?
So in terms of the noise study, I mean, I'm not a noise engineer. Professionals did that. It's been reviewed by city engineering staff, so I'm not going to comment directly. I can tell you, based on my experience from doing many applications over the years, there's two things that are helpful here. One is there is a noise fence on the south side of Waterside Way. Because of Highway 15, there's a requirement for a noise fence for those residential uses. Also, the other best way to deal with noise is separation. So the fact that there is that street before you get to residential mitigates noise impact. So again, I'm not the professional in noise engineer, so that's about as far as I'd want to go there. Certainly, we looked at other locations for the drive-through and for the restaurant, and we did look at configuring it on the other side, and this becomes the most efficient use of the land. And it's partly about trying to create, again, that corner presence of the buildings so that people can walk across the street at Highway 15 and enter into Starbucks or whatever the place is, coffee shop. And, you know, that it becomes, there was a lot of emphasis put on, and it's in the official plan, that this is to be pedestrian friendly, it's to be welcoming, that there's to be a storefront on these street frontages. And that's why we pulled the buildings up close there.
I suspect that some of those assumptions might be incorrect. If this is going to be pedestrian friendly, you do have a drive-through on Wester Side Way. It seems that it's only half pedestrian friendly. There really must be a better creative way to do this than what's been presented.
Other questions from the committee? Councillor Neal?
Yes, I read the report and I see the rear yard setback. Can you point out where on, I guess that's the north side of Waterside Way, where the houses will likely be located?
So the new houses that are being...
Yeah.
So they would be, they'd be right here. Can you see where the cursor is?
Okay. And across
Or
the...
no, sorry. This is, maybe I should get you the full site plan, just a moment.
Thank you.
There. Does that help?
Yes,
So
it
there, the
does.
houses are here where it says residential.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's
And so there's
future
another
residential?
street.
And across the Waterside Way from Starbucks,
Yes.
how far back would the houses in all likelihood be located there?
And I'll go back
Because
down.
I see that it says it says rear yard setback.
So that's the minimum rear yard setback.
Okay,
Okay, so a house, so there's your front yard setback,
yeah.
house, and
So-
then rear yard.
So houses themselves would be well beyond that 50-meter or somewhat beyond that 50-meter regulation that we have.
I can't guarantee that they'd be beyond the 50 meter. A good way to look at this is some of these lots that are straighter that I'm
Yeah.
pointing to, because that gives you a more regular lot shape. So you'd have your front yard setback, a house, and then as you know, I mean, houses now are being built narrower and longer. So some of these houses could come pretty close to that rear lot line. When you
Okay.
get to a corner like this, it makes the lots a lot longer. So in this case, so say a house is approximately here, your line's going to be about there of where your houses are. So there will be more of a rear yard on these corner lots. It's just the
Okay.
way houses fit onto them.
Okay, and you mentioned that same fit, I'm assuming across the street on Highway 15?
It's beyond 50 meters.
It's beyond 50
Yes.
meters? Okay. What is C8? Sorry, it's,
That's the site-specific zone for commercial on
Okay.
that site.
thank you. Oh, and quick question just for staff. Have we received much input from the community? I could ask that question later if you'd prefer, but.
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair. We've just received one member of the public just for asking for a question of clarification, but I've received no written comment on the application or any other telephone calls.
And that was just a question that you were able to answer? It wasn't, I hate
Yeah,
to say a rant, but it wasn't a complaint about it at all?
No, through Madam Chair. I think we may be getting some questions about it in a minute, but it wasn't actually questions on the application, it was more on the process.
Because, as you know, I usually am a little reluctant when a recommendation comes at the same time as a public meeting.
Yeah.
So I'll reserve my other comments for when we're discussing the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. My apologies for not asking about the public portion of the staff's job. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, members of the public? I see we have one who would like to give us a PowerPoint presentation.
No, unfortunately, I couldn't bring up the committee of adjustment
You
piece.
could not bring up the committee?
No, so I can give you the hard copy.
Yeah, I'd like it back.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Vicky Schmolka, 702 Newmarket Lane. I guess what first attracted my attention to this application is it came from the Committee of Adjustment. And generally, when the Committee of Adjustment makes a decision, and in this case, the Committee of Adjustment said no to this particular zoning application, it naturally should go to the OMB for appeal. So it surprised me that it was coming to Planning Committee. And I was in touch with staff about that, and I guess in a way it's a curious part of this process, but it's what's happened. So dealing with it as a Planning Committee application here, I do have a few comments. I guess my first question to the applicant would be, if the distance is 30 meters for the road and 3 meters on one side and 6 on the other, why are they asking, which makes 40 meters, why are they asking for only 3 meters? Like, they're kind of annihilating the official plan policy on drive-throughs in this location, which was established for a very good reason, and I know it was not changed when the official plan review went through. It's going to council next week. So no one has raised the issue of this 50 meters as being inappropriate. I know it's in the zone, but the official plan policies, which I'll go through in a minute, cover drive-throughs generally. So new drive-through facilities are subject to the policies of sections 3.4.g.7 and 10A.3.6 where applicable. So, and what does 3.4.g.7 say? Drive-through facilities have particular operational characteristics. The city has an interest in the form and location of such uses to ensure that such uses will be appropriate for any particular site. Land use compatibility as per section 2.7 of this plan, parking, signage, landscaping, and impacts on the streetscape and the pedestrian and vehicle environments will be key considerations in the review of new or expanding drive-through facilities. Detailed regulations for new or expanding drive-through facilities will be contained within the implementing zoning bylaw, which is what we see here. New or expanding drive-through facilities are subject to site plan control review, and Ms. Watson has indicated that that is taking place. As part of the development review process, the proponent is required to submit such supporting studies and reports as set out in 9.12, which would be the noise study as an example. So the other reference is 10.8.6, that says new drive-through facilities will not be permitted in the downtown area, and it goes on to say drive-through may be permitted. New drive-through facilities are subject to site plan control. So the official plan tries to say that drive-throughs pose challenges in the cityscape because basically it's very unpleasant to live next to a place where car doors slam, as Councillor McLaren pointed out, where cars are stacked up in a line and that people don't turn off their engines, they let their engines run, so there's health concerns around that. There's noise from the speakers, and these operations can often be 24/7. And you know, I just like to remind Planning Committee that although we see this beautiful Starbucks and we all think high-end luxury, there's no guarantee. All you're doing is changing the zoning. You're allowing a drive-through there. It can be any drive-through. It can be a Tim Hortons at the end of the day. It can be a McDonald's. It can be an Arby's. It could be anything. So you're not really approving a Starbucks at this location. You're approving a drive-through at this location. So I just wanted to bring to your attention, that's Ms. Watson has already showed you this slide, but I'd like to bring you to your attention what the Committee of Adjustment said about this application. It says, variance 1, which is this particular piece, does not conform to the intent of the official plan. This is in the record of decision. I tried, it's D13-026, 2016, if you want to look it up on your computers. That's D13-026, 2016. So it says, however, in number 2, however, the proposed drive-through facility was not considered minor in nature and did not meet the intent of the zoning bylaw. And then it said, the variance for the, let me see, the requested drive-through, this is number 4, the requested drive-through facility variance is not appropriate for development for the land as it can be accommodated elsewhere on the property. The requested variances for reduction in the parking space sizes is appropriate because that's the other thing that the applicant has asked for. So Committee of Adjustment was fine with changing the size of the parking spaces in this area, but they were not fine with the drive-through. And again, you know, it's problematic as to why you're being asked to review something that has already been decided by another quasi-judicial body, but assuming that Committee of Adjustment said this isn't minor, therefore it should go to Planning Committee, perhaps that's the way it went. But they did make a statement that it wasn't appropriate and that it could be accommodated elsewhere on the property. So this has already been talked about by appointed officials. So that's kind of the background that's concerning me and that brought me here today and had me in conversation with staff about how this could happen. I'll just say, sorry, I'll finish up. I'll just say that I'm very worried about the city just turning its back on the drive-through provisions of the official plan and particularly the drive-through positions in the position in the zoning bylaw. They are really there for a reason. There was a lot of consideration for them in the 2006 to 2010 reconstitution of the official plan. We had a lawyer from Ottawa come and talk to the planning committee more than once about drive-throughs, and in the end, the city landed on this policy and it was not appealed to the OMB and it held. So if you're going to turn your back on that policy, you have to be really sure that you can live with that and the consequences of that in other situations. And again, I say you're reducing a 50-meter setback to a 3-meter setback. And I think, you know, maybe the math is just odd as to why that setback has to be so shrunken. And I recognize there's a street in the way, but there's a lot to that drive-through policy that was considered when it was developed. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public? Mr. Dixon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm requesting that the clerk put up on the screen the slide for page 41, which is the last page in the package.
I'm afraid I can't easily put the items on the screen because the internet access is rather lacking on that machine.
Okay, could our planner put up a slide that would show that particular segment, or sort of that particular view? Basically, it's kind of the 3 miles up. Yeah, I'd like to have it up there because I'm going to refer to it when I present. That's my request. You could also use the lamp on the clerk's table to do that. If you have the page, you could put it up using the lamp. Okay, I've got a little bit of a kind of a complicated argument here. So what I'll do is I'll segue from what our previous presenter said. Former Councillor Vicky Schmolka has done some analysis on this, and I think she is really on to something important here. I also want to reference something that came to the Planning Committee at its last meeting, where there was a similar issue with the setbacks for a drive-through on different proposal on the corner of Sir John A. and Princess as part of the Kingston Centre, which also asked for a similar reduction in the setbacks. So this might be part of a pattern, and I'm concerned about that, for one thing. That was also very close to 2 arterial routes, Sir John A. Macdonald and Princess Street. And the Kingston Centre is a problematic location for both pedestrians and vehicles, okay? So just to reinforce that, and I guess my next point on that regard is there are 2 drive-throughs being requested, not just 1. And again, you've got an arterial route here on Highway 15. That's a very busy route, and there's more development that's going in there. We know that, right? There's a lot of traffic. It comes off of 401 to downtown. That's a major route to downtown. And Rose Abbey Drive is also quite busy. Okay, so that's my one major point. The second major point, which hasn't been addressed in any of the presentations so far that I've seen on this, has reference to the map for Kingston Transit. It seems to me that when you're planning basically what is a new shopping center for the neighborhood, and I support that plan because there's not enough shopping up there, if we build more commercial there, that'll hopefully reduce the amount of trips that are needed to go to and from downtown for residents to pick up basic items, and also to go to dinner and all those things. That's good to have. So I do support that, but what I have is the Kingston Transit map, which came into effect last week, right? There's been changes of service, so this is the sort of like a purpley red color one. And the only routes that cover that are the Express 601, 602 routes that are near there. The other route up in the area is the 12, it doesn't go up that far, okay? Since the lamp isn't working, that's problematic to present that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just describe what I've got here. The new plaza that's proposed seems to me 300 to 400 meters minimum away in distance from where the existing transit stops are. Okay, so on the 601, 602 route, it's the same route that just runs in reverse, right? One goes north, one goes south, coming into downtown. So you've got stops to the southwest of where the proposed location is, on Rose Abbey Drive. And then you don't have a stop on 15 at that point, but you have one on the turn on Innovation Drive. So it looks to me like a bit, sort of 300 to 400 meters away in each direction. So you are going to have a lot of people who are hopefully going to use, you know, that center, right? That's why it's going in there, the demand.
1 minute, Mr. Dixon.
All right. So I guess to conclude, my point is that it would seem obvious that you would want to include transit stops at the plaza that you were designing, but yet there's no mention of that in the reports. I see that as a major omission. I think the planning has to be combined and integrated together. We're supposed to be a transit-friendly city and aiming to be Canada's most sustainable city. So it seems to be a real lack of understanding, you know, the different elements that fit in here. And I think maybe what I'll do is I'll write this up and then put in my graphics as well and put that into the clerk. Right now, it's hard for people on the committee to follow this around. I could pass the transit map around if people want to see that. I'm going to do that. Okay, so I think that's the end of my points, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak? Seeing no other person wanting to speak, would you like to respond, Ms. Watson?
So first of all, I'll speak to the Committee of Adjustment. So I'm quite sure everybody here knows that the role of the Committee of Adjustment is to grant a minor variance. And it's very specific what they're allowed to approve. And to grant a minor variance, they have to feel that 4 tests have been met. And then if they have been met, the application is considered minor. In this case, we did apply for a minor variance. In the opinion of myself and our firm, we believe this is minor. It was supported by city staff, but the Committee of Adjustment, in a tie vote, because there's only 4 members there, it lost on the tie. So what that means is the option then is we could have appealed that, absolutely. And in that case, at the board, it would have been ourselves and city staff and Committee of Adjustment. The city would have had to hire planners and lawyers to defend that position. Now, I think you're very well aware that the residents of this area on the other side of Highway 15, there's a lack of services, basic retail, banks and services and grocery stores. There's a high demand for this plaza to be built. We are well into the approval process. We're well into site plan approval. There's some grading starting on the property, and the hopes is to have construction happening as soon as the snow has melted, and to have at least a grocery store open very quickly after that. So in the interest of time, as well as money for all involved, we decided the best option was to apply for a rezoning application. They're 2 very different applications. The Committee of Adjustment decided this is not minor, so the appropriate thing to do then is you could appeal or you apply for a different kind of application. A rezoning is a different kind of application. So there's really no relation between it being not accepted by the Committee of Adjustment. What they were saying is that this is not, in their opinion, a minor application. So we took the route, rather than appealing it, to come here to the committee and request a rezoning. In terms of the reduction to 3 meters, it's illustrated here, and I think I explained it already. The reason we go from the number 50 to the number 3 is the location of the zone line. And because the zone line is right at the border of the commercial property, we get down to 3 meters. Often, if you look at the zoning bylaw, often the zone line would either follow the other side of the street or down the middle of the street. You get down to that really small number 3 because of the location of that line. But what we think is really important is to look at the actual on-the-ground setback and the actual effects. And that's the other thing, is looking at the official plan policies. They do speak to the location of drive-throughs. They mention how important it is to really locate them in good places that have regard for compatibility. And the policies actually speak to 2 things, and that's noise and traffic. Both of those professional engineers dealing with those with both noise and traffic have reviewed this and have determined that this location is acceptable. It meets acceptable standards. Going on to transit, this has been reviewed by the transit department of the city. There is actually an access being proposed from the future residential to this site, and there will be, and I don't have it right here in front of me exactly where, but there will be a transit stop on Highway 15. So the integration of transit to the site and walkways and pedestrian flow across the site has been considered.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from the committee? Councillor Neal.
Yes. Can you point out where the pedestrian walkway would be on the waterside way on the side of the Starbucks? I know that there's a 3-meter landscaped proposal, but whereabouts would the walkway actually be?
I'll show you on this, then I'll look at the other plan and see if it shows it better. I'll tell you there have been some comments from park staff, and we will be updating this to respond to parks. But this is a walkway, so there's a sidewalk along Waterside Way, okay, that comes from Highway 15. And this walkway will come up to access to Starbucks and the patios there.
Okay.
So it's intended, and you can't see this here, but there's a bit of a grade difference. So the drive-through is actually up a bit higher than the roadway. So and that's why this is shown on an angle, because that's showing it's going up grade. So this will actually direct people to take the walkway. What we're proposing that will be submitted to city staff, it hasn't been approved yet, but we're actually proposing another walkway there so that it's encouraging people on the sidewalk coming from both directions to actually use those walkways and cross at a designated spot.
Okay. Do you have any idea if, because there was some mention by one of the people from the public, is there going to be likely to be another drive-through to serve the St. Louis Wings, or no?
No, there is not.
That's a sit-down restaurant,
Yes.
strictly.
Yeah.
And the entrance to that parking area will be off of Highway 15.
Yeah, here, sorry, So there's the full site plan again. So there
Okay.
is a central entrance off Highway 15.
Okay.
Okay. So you can see the general pattern is a road, in front of the retail, in front of the blocks, and a central entrance off Highway 15, but with the idea that this is the main entrance off Waterside Way. It would have full both direction access.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Councillor Turner? Mr. Adams?
Through you, Madam Chair. Just a bit more clarification there. So this full site plan's a little clearer, so the pedestrian access point of view. The Waterside Way that comes off Highway 15, there's actually going to be a sidewalk on both sides of that section of Waterside Way. There's coming off Waterside Way, there's a pedestrian connection in front of the commercial at the rear, as well as what Ms. Watson spoke about over the drive-through lane. There's also 3 pedestrian accesses coming in off Highway 15. There's one, that's Central Aisle, which is going to be a right-in, right-out off Highway 15. There's one running alongside of there, and then there's one at what's on the right of the plan, which is the north of the site, running north along the site there. Just additional questions about the transit. Thank you for the bus schedule, Mr. Dixon. 2 new bus stops are actually planned, one directly in front of the commercial plaza, which will be served by the Express Transit. It's actually going to be kind of in front of the Block E, which is the northern site. So there will be kind of 2 pedestrian connections coming in from that transit. The other one will be on, obviously, the other side of Highway 15, but actually on Rose Abbey Drive. So there'll be that access across that signalised intersection, and you'll be able to, the pedestrians can get into the site from there. Thank you.
Councillor Turner?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair, a couple questions. One, will there be lights put up at this intersection, and where would they be? And going back to the buses, will they be cleared out of the traffic, out of the road? Will they be on a pad or on an edge so that it won't constrict the traffic? Can I ask those two?
Yeah, yes, the intersection will be signalized at Waterside and Highway 15. This other entrance is just a right in, right out. There is a right turn lane being added to Waterside Way. And in terms of the transit pad, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, the plan I've got in front of me is printed out a little unclear, but as Ms. Watson said, there's kind of a right turn lane, and the actual bus stop will be kind of in the first kind of portion of that. There's going to be bike lanes put down this section of Highway 15 as well, so it will be offset from the bike lanes as well.
That's great, thank you. Is it comment time now, or is it later?
We'll put it on the floor a little later on, then we can comment.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Councillor McLaren?
Thank you. And just thinking about what you said earlier about the efficiency of this design, it strikes me that the efficiency is sacrificing the noise concerns of the neighbors, but it seems a very simple solution would be just to take Block D, take a mirror image of that and plop it back in there. And then you would have those buildings and Block E, that big blue building, as a gateway enter there, and you'd have the drive-through actually making noise in the other direction, which is commercial, and you'd have all your setbacks all would be perfect there. I'm sure there's hundreds of other different creative ways of thinking about this, and I'm sure a professional engineer or a professional planner or professional architect could come up with at least 1,000 more that would make a lot better sense. So I would just encourage that another option be considered.
I guess I can just say that several options, including that one, were tried on the site. And when we're designing the site, there's so many different balls in the air, so to speak, to fit in. We have to do parking, we have to think of flow, we have to think number of parking spaces, how the cars move around the site, and as well as meeting the official plan policies and the guidelines around design and where the building should be located. And this was found to have the most efficient use of the site. Yeah, one of the things that we're dealing with is the supermarket, and they have very strong requirements for their parking and the amount of parking, and it's much higher than what the city would require. So there are actually requirements just by the tenants that have to be met.
Thank you. Other questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation. And I will close our second public meeting. Thank you. I'll now call the regular Planning Committee meeting to order and ask for approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Osanek. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Confirmation of the minutes of Thursday, September the 1st. Moved by Councillor Osanek, seconded by Councillor Turner. Errors, omissions, comments? All those in favor? Thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? None. No delegations, no briefings, business. Our first item of business is application for zoning bylaw amendment 85 King Street East, and we have a recommendation to approve from staff. Moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Osanek. Comments? Councillor Neal.
Yes. I'm looking for rationalization why I'm supporting this when it comes up in the public meeting, but I recognize that this is the second public meeting for this, and a lot of questions were addressed and answered with at the first public meeting. I will ask a question I always ask of the planner. Have we received any or many responses from the community or the neighborhood? Has there been questions expressed regarding this application?
Through you, Madam Chair. Other than the questions that were raised at the first public meeting in July, we've received no comments or inquiries whatsoever.
I'm happy to support this recommendation.
Any other comments? Then I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you, and that carries. And our second, Part B, is application for zoning bylaw amendment, 1200 Highway 15, with a recommendation of approval. Should we put it on the floor? Moved by Councillor Turner, seconded by Councillor Osanek. Comments, questions? Councillor Neal.
Just a quick comment to our staff, if I could. If we have a report that comes to us that has gone through the Committee of Adjustment process, could we have that information provided in the comprehensive report? If it was there, I missed it. Was it there? I apologize. I read this too many days ago. So, and I'm going to make a quick comment and reserve whether I'm voting for this or not to listen to some of the other comments here. But for any of us who are really questioning the need for a third crossing, unless we allow for more commercial growth in Kingston East, the prime argument for needing a third crossing will always be there. I've had lots of pro-third crossing people who have said to me, sometimes jokingly, give us a beer store, a liquor store, a grocery store, a hardware store, and we wouldn't even need a bridge. And I think that's accurate. And so that doesn't mean that we throw away the concept of looking for good planning for any developments here, but we need to help facilitate those kinds of commercial development in the East End, or we lose our grounds for fighting against a third crossing. So that was a political aside. And I look forward to the other comments from people on the committee.
Thank you. Other comments? Councillor McLaren.
Are you willing to reconsider the design layout and consider different factors to come up with a different balance?
Actually, that we're just now to staff.
Okay, are they?
Through you, Madam Chair. The application is in for site plan. The site plan has not been finalised. The site plan did come to Planning Committee, I think, about a month ago, August 4th, sorry, and it was the design was approved in principle. But like I say, there is still the opportunity for us to have discussions with the applicant regarding the design. As I say, the site plan's not finalised today.
Sorry, Ms. Vendetti.
Through you, Madam Chair, I just reiterate, though, as Ms. Watson stated, they have looked at different options for the site, and the location of the building at that corner is consistent with the official plan policies in terms of bringing the presence of buildings towards the Highway 15 corridor as well as the Waterside Way extension in terms of framing the site. So in terms of the design of the site, they have looked at different options, different iterations, and as Ms. Watson mentioned, there's a number of objectives to balance in doing that and looking at the design and layout of the site, including the traffic function, the proximity to the intersection and other access points. Where you're suggesting, I believe, towards the middle entrance point could present some traffic options in terms of circulation too close to the intersection or too close to the entrance, as well as in proximity to the other drive-through that's proposed for the site. I would note that the other drive-through doesn't require a minor variance, just you had mentioned the presence of it. It meets the 50-meter separation distance as established in the existing zoning. So while there might be some opportunities to look at some design suggestions, I do think that the applicant answered the question and that at this point in time, they've looked at as many iterations as possible on the site, and this is their preferred option.
Thank you. Councillor Turner.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. I appreciate everybody's input on this. It's been a very interesting file to read through. It's a suburban landscape, so it's not downtown Kingston. So I think you've got to look at it in a different perspective here. So when you look at this drive-through, it's next to a place that I believe hasn't been developed yet. Am I correct on that? So there's no houses. So when these people buy these houses, it's buyer beware. They know they're backing up to Highway 15, and they also know they're backing up to a commercial strip that the Starbucks or whatever is being built there with the drive-through will be built. So therefore, if I was to buy that house, I would take all those considerations into view and into my opinion when I would buy that house. So I think that, for me, I think I know you don't like the zoning, I know, we might be with the special plan and everything, but I think it's okay. I think, these people, the houses aren't built, they will see what they're going to buy when they get there. And Highway 15 is a busy road, so they're already going to have to contend with the noise that's already out there. So there's a noise fence that's going up. So my opinion is I think it's okay at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Osanek. Oh,
Thank you,
Mr.
Madam
Adams.
Chair.
Planner Adams.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Just a point of clarity there. The houses are not built at the moment, but the closest portion of the subdivision has been approved, so it's under development. I just want to put a point of clarification. There may be a house there before the commercial, but the zoning will obviously state that the drive-through can go there. But the subdivision, the residential portion of the subdivision is currently under development.
So a question to that is, a buyer has not built or bought a house there at this point.
Sorry. Through you, Madam Chair, there's not a house completed to date, no.
Okay, thank you.
And Councillor Osanek.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And then just building on what Councillor Turner said, maybe then when it does go to site plan for that landscape buffer, it could be some evergreen trees that will therefore try to absorb the noise more rather than a deciduous trees.
Thank you for the comment. I'll take that and relay it back to the Parks Department. And just again, just to clarify, the site plan is still under review, so any potential buyer, there are signs up on the property saying that a site plan is currently under review.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? I'll call the vote. All those in favor? I'm just going to call the vote. Yeah. All those in favor? 4 and 1 against. Thank you. And our next is the application for zoning bylaw amendment 113 Raglan Road. And first, I need a motion to amend the recommendation to change the date from August 9th to September 15th.
September 20th.
No, 15th today.
No, it's to go to
Oh, to go to council the 20th.
on September 20th.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Osanek, seconded by Councillor Turner. All those in favor? Thank you. So this is the 113 Raglan Road amendment, and there is a recommendation from staff. Mover and seconder for the Councillor Turner, Councillor Osanek seconds. Comments, questions, Councillor Turner, or McLaren?
Wow. Okay. May I ask, has any progress been made with the consultation with the neighbors and the parking lot issue that was brought up last time?
Through you, Madam Chair, there's a supplementary report on the agenda that includes some correspondence. They are talking and willing to cooperate with one another moving forward.
Thank you. Other questions? I will call the motion as amended. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And application for zoning bylaw amendment 15 Markland Street with a recommendation from staff. Moved by Councillor Osanek, seconded by Councillor Neal. Questions from the committee? I will move the recommendation. All those in favor? Thank you, and that carries. And Part E, supplementary report. Oh, no, that's just a report, and that's for information purposes. That concludes the business portion. We have no motions, notices of motion. We have no other business correspondence. The next meeting, is it? Just waving your hand. Okay. Next meeting, October 6th. Move to adjourn, Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Osanek. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.